When the Alliance of American Football League launched in 2019, there was a lot of excitement surrounding the league, and fans showed up in the team's home cities to watch teams that could turn into NFL minor league teams down the road. From the outside looking in, things looked great for the Alliance of American Football League, aka the AAF, and there looked to be a bright future. But below the surface, everything was falling apart, which led to them ending the season abruptly, leaving players, coaches, and fans confused. This is the story of the collapse of the AAF. This is the story of how a greedy billionaire ruined a promising league. But before we get into this, if you enjoy college football and spring league football content like this, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, let me know who your favorite spring league team is, past or present, in the comments section below. After the launch of the ESPN's XFL documentary, This Was the XFL, which was a 30 for 30 documentary that looked into the origins of the XFL, Charlie Ebersol, the son of former executive and XFL co-founder Dick Ebersol, became inspired to create a football league. Charlie was the one who directed the aforementioned XFL documentary, and through learning the history of the league, he felt there was a world where a spring football league could survive and maybe even thrive, and felt the XFL failed due to bad football being played. Ebersol's motivation for starting the AAF stemmed from his love for football and his desire to create a sustainable professional football league that could complement the NFL rather than compete against the NFL. He saw an opportunity to address what he perceived as a gap in the market for football content during the NFL offseason. Additionally, Ebersol and his team aimed to innovate in the traditional football model by incorporating technological advancements and creating a fan-friendly experience. He began developing the AAF in February of 2017, and at the same time the word had come out about the XFL co-founder Vince McMahon possibly reviving the old XFL brand. Originally, Charlie had reached out to Vince McMahon about working together to relaunch the XFL, but the two could not come to an agreement as Charlie wanted to buy full control of the XFL brand and was willing to pay $50 million for the trademark, but Vince refused to sell. The league would almost feel rushed to get off the ground to beat Vince's XFL, which was launching in 2020, so Charlie announced the launch of the league in March of 2018, with the intentions to begin their first season in February of 2019. A year sounds like a lot of time, I know, but when it comes to starting a football league from scratch, that is a pretty big undertaking. In that year, they needed to create their plan, secure funding, organize their teams, find venues for the teams to play in, and secure media rights, while also thinking of marketable team names and cities to play in. Even with all the assets Vince had with the XFL, he decided to spend a few years putting everything together. So already the red flags were starting to show up for this brand new football league. Ebersol sought to focus on creating a solid football product in the hope that it would attract fans. He hired a team of experienced football players and coaches and executives to prepare the league for launch. Guys like Bill Polian, Troy Polamalu, Hines Ward, Justin Tuck, and Mike Pereira were all involved in the launch of the league, as well as Ebersol's father Dick, who you think would have learned from the mistakes of the original XFL. After how disappointing the original XFL's play on the field was, Charlie wanted to make sure he brought in great players and coaches who could perform at a high level. Former national championship winning head coach Steve Spurrier, who was a Florida and South Carolina football coaching great, was announced as the league's first head coach, being assigned to the Orlando team. The league would have 8 teams during its inaugural season: the Atlanta Legends, coached by Kevin Coyle, the Birmingham Iron, coached by Tim Lewis, the Memphis Express, coached by Mike Singletary, as well as the aforementioned Orlando Apollos in the East. The West teams would consist of the Arizona Hotshots, coached by Rick Neuheisel, the Salt Lake Stallions, coached by Dennis Erickson, the San Antonio Commanders, coached by Mike Riley, and the San Diego Fleet, coached by Mike Martz. Aside from Atlanta, all the cities chosen did not have a professional football team and were all strong cities to play in with the demand for football. Arizona played in Tempe at Arizona State's campus, and not in Glendale, where the Arizona Cardinals play. Former Georgia quarterback Aaron Murray would be the first player signed to the AAF, and they would sign their first 100 players by July 30th, just 4 months after the launch of the league. In August, they held scouting combine events in Los Angeles, Houston, and Atlanta, leading to 205 players being signed to the league by August 24th, 2018. Each player signed a non-guaranteed 3-year contract with a total of $250,000, which paid $70,000 in 2019, $80,000 in 2020, and $100,000 in 2021. In October of 2018, the league would release their inaugural schedule, and in November they held a 4-round protector pick quarterback draft, which was aired on CBS Sports. But then something interesting occurred in December of 2018 behind closed doors. Charlie once again approached Vince, this time proposing the idea of combining the two leagues to make one strong spring league. Vince once again turned Charlie down. While this may seem like a small detail, what it reveals is that maybe Charlie felt he was a little over his head, because he proposed this 2 months before the start of the season. Heading into February, all seemed great though, as there were no more red flags shown to those on the outside, at least to my understanding. The first game of the AAF would take place in February when the Atlanta Legends took on the Orlando Apollos. The first points in the AAF regular season history were scored by kicker Younghoe Koo of the Atlanta Legends, and is now a great kicker for the Atlanta Falcons, who made a 38-yard field goal against the Orlando Apollos. The first touchdown came in the same game, with Orlando quarterback Garrett Gilberts connecting with Jalen Marshall for a 16-yard score. Orlando would destroy Atlanta 40-6. Things seemed good as the Apollos attracted over 20,000 fans to their home opener. Fan attendance seemed strong for the first week, with almost 28,000 fans showing up for the Commanders versus San Diego Fleet game, and the lowest attended game being the Arizona Hotshots versus Salt Lake Stallions, which still saw almost 12,000 fans show up for the game. Almost 80,000 fans showed up in total for the first 4 games of Week 1 of the season. Things seemed great on paper, and they even signed Johnny Manziel to a contract in mid-March after he was released from the CFL. This brought headlines to the league and even more viewership. Bleacher Report wrote back in 2019, Manziel's return will provide the AAF with star power as it continues to rise as a premier development league and gives the Express a compelling new option under center following failed experiments with Christian Hackenberg and Zach Mettenberger. Fans continued to show up for games, and TV ratings, with games airing on TNT, CBS Sports, NFL Network, and sometimes even on CBS, started off strong and continued to remain relatively steady throughout the season. But by Week 8, fans would be surprised by the league deciding to cancel the remainder of the season. Yet, if what was going on behind the scenes was known to the public, many would not be surprised. So originally, Bill Polian and Charlie had gotten enough funding to launch the league, but had not gotten enough investment to keep the league going as they hit some financial woes. One major issue was Reggie Fowler, slated to be a $170 million investor in the AAF, pulled back, committing only $28 million to the league and leaving the AAF in a lurch. According to Sports Illustrated, Fowler was actually being charged with bank fraud and operating an unlicensed money transmitting business during this time period, which may have cut back on the investment into the league at first. 10 days after the start of the season, NHL Carolina Hurricanes owner Tom Dundon would invest $250 million into the league, becoming the new majority owner and the new chairman after the league failed to meet its payroll obligations in Week 1 by 12 hours. Though Charlie would deny they were missing payroll at the time. Dundon had considered investing in the league before play started, but was concerned about the product on the field, so he waited until after Week 1. He was relatively impressed by the product on the field. Dundon had just purchased the Hurricanes 13 months earlier for $420 million and made his money by founding Drive Financial Services, a Texas-based auto loan company in the 1990s when he was only in his 20s. In 2006, Dundon sold controlling interest in the company to Spanish financial giant Banco Santander for $651 million, keeping a 10% stake in the firm, now called Santander Consumer USA, for himself. Dundon made a killing off of subprime car loans, which are high-interest, high-risk loans for people whose financial histories may make them undesirable to larger, more conservative lenders. In the US, most people need a car due to our suboptimal public transportation system, so Dundon had a huge group of people to profit off of, and that he did, in controversial ways. When Dundon arrived, he seemed like the league's savior and seemed to buy into the image of being a developmental league for the NFL down the road. But 8 weeks later, he would be the person who single-handedly chose to shut down the league, surprising executives, coaches, and players. The dude had an ego trip and didn't talk to anybody about the decision. Players and coaches found out through the news, and when they got back to their hotels, they found their bags in the lobby, meaning bills had not been paid for a while. Some hotels were even charging players for the unpaid hotel rooms. Players and coaches were told they needed to find their own way home, and to my understanding, if I remember right, players were responsible for paying for their own injury care after this. Employees of the league, which was over 940 people staffed, were given cold emails saying the league was shutting down, leaving hundreds, if not thousands, without a job. The University of Central Florida lost $1 million in promised funding for hosting the Orlando Apollo's games. Vendors in San Antonio were owed $4 million, and it's unclear if they ever saw a cent of that. The ripples of the league collapse extending far beyond those directly employed or playing the league. It's impacted lives everywhere. The NFL even barred teams from signing AAF players for a short period due to questions around the league's legal issues. Gosh, I was so mad when this news broke in 2019, but after covering the Spring League since 2020, this only makes me angrier. You, Tom Dundon. I get shutting down the league for financial reasons, but to leave people hanging is just a scumbag move. Dundon did not want to invest more money into the league and wanted a commitment from the NFLPA that they would provide them young players for year 2. Yet the issue was, the NFLPA couldn't do that because they were in the middle of a CBA agreement they could not break until 2020, and Dundon refused to wait for an answer. Ebersol and Polian said they foresaw a cooperative agreement with the NFL coming in 2 or 3 years. The plan was to create a league that was able to sustain itself until that lifeline came through. This would have been the image sold to Dundon when he invested the money in the league. According to The Ringer, Dundon invested $70 million and committed to invest another $180 million more in the coming years. It seemed like he'd be willing to float the league cash if it needed to survive for a short term until the NFL pitched in. However, Dundon very quickly shifted his tone from being excited about his shiny new league to proclaiming its oncoming doom. There was no way the NFL was going to instantly give the AAF money, especially not until they at least finished their first season. Some theorized that Dundon purchased the AAF just for the league's technology, since they had created a great app and gambling technology that used historical football data paired with machine learning to create a predictive analytical system, the likes of which the sporting world had never seen, that would feed instantly to fans who were gambling. Charlie had originally called the AAF a tech company that owns a football league. If this was Dundon's reasoning for shutting down the league, some question whether he would even have the rights to tech, or if it were even legal to do this, which he would not get the tech in the long run. For once, there was a football league that was not trying to dethrone the NFL, but instead creating more opportunities for players to develop and to develop the future of football, but a scumbag billionaire who wanted fame in the end decided to screw people, screw football players, screw staff members, and screw all those involved and throw their fans under the bus and screw them as well. Dundon still owns the Hurricanes and is now an investor in pickleball. The AAF could have been successful, but in the end, they tried to rush the league out to start before the more well-known XFL and chose to partner with the wrong person in the end when they were desperate for money. It's sad because it did look like there was a future for the AAF, and maybe if those involved were patient, they could be partnered with the NFL right now, and there would not be a UFL. But what do you think? What caused the demise of the AAF? And do you think it could have survived had Tom Dundon and others involved actually given it some time? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out one of my other videos YouTube thinks you will love right here. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, remember to embrace the grind.